Welcome back to another video at Chesterton Road. In this video I'm going to be attempting to add a stay-alive capacitor to my Bachmann 08 shunter. This is one of the older non-dcc ready models which I've since hardwired a decoder into. It's a number of years since I did this. I can't remember exactly what decoder it is. I think it's a lens silver something or other. So hopefully it should be a fairly straightforward procedure. This is the stay-alive capacitor here. I just got it off a seller on eBay. I'll put a link in the description to where I got it from. This is just I think it's a medium one, which was recommended for a loco of this size. I think it was paid about £12 for it. The decoder itself isn't sort of stay alive ready, if you like. I believe probably more modern decoders, maybe more expensive ones, have a solder pad on them ready to use as the negative for the stay-alive capacitor. You use the blue, I'm not sure, is it an auxiliary output or whatever it is, for one feed, and then, as I say, you would normally solder onto a spare pad on the decoder, which I don't have. But from what I've read online, my understanding is that you can use one of the legs from the bridge rectifier, which I believe is that component there. So I'm going to be giving that a go and see what happens. Worst comes to the worst, the decoder is quite old now and I only paid about 20 quid for it. The capacitor, as I say, was only about £12, so if it doesn't work or something goes pop, as long as it doesn't damage the loco itself, it's not going to cost me a huge amount of money. And I wanted to fit stay-alive to it anyway, so I potentially would have had to have bought a new decoder anyway. So for the sort of risk versus reward, I think it's worth it. But obviously if you were inspired to attempt this yourself on your own model, you do so at your own risk. I genuinely have no idea, if this is going to work. It should do from the research I've done. It should work, hopefully. But as I say, I think it's worth the risk for the damage that could be done. So what I need to do initially is just drill a small hole in the body here at the bottom, so I can feed the wires for the stay-alive through, because that will sit on the bottom of the cab floor. It should be sort of fairly discreet. You shouldn't really see it unless you're peering right into the cab. Feed the wires through, and then obviously they'll run along the length of the locomotive and then be soldered to the decoder, which sits right on the nose end of the decoder itself. So I'm gonna, as I say, drill a hole for the cables, and then it should hopefully just be a case of soldering the two ends of the wires onto the decoder. I'm going to remove this blue wire at the decoder itself, so that rather than trying to join that to the wire on the stay-alive capacitor, I can just solder straight onto the pad on the decoder. So yeah, I'll get started with that and see you in a minute. Okay, so that's a little hole drilled and the capacitor just temporarily put in place. I'll hold that down with a bit of blue tack or black tack or something. Once it's all done, there should be enough slack on the wires to kind of run it down the side of the body and then attach to the decoder itself. One thing I didn't mention initially was I didn't sort of show myself taking the loco apart. It's a pretty straightforward thing to do. There's only a couple of screws you need to undo, and then it all sort of unclips. The cab can be a little bit fiddly to get off, but once you kind of work out how it comes off, it sort of it slides off quite easily. I've also got a little bit glazing there that had already come loose, so I'll glue that back into place when I put it back together. So the next thing to do then really is just to get the soldering iron heating up. I'm not the best at soldering and it's quite a fiddly job, but hopefully it won't be too bad. I've got my trusty helping hand here. He's lost one of his hands somewhere, not quite sure where that's gone, but hopefully one should be enough, and I've got the magnifying glass, so hopefully it'll be fairly straightforward. So you'll join me again in a second with hopefully a little bit of dodgy soldering done. Okay, all done. That's the first and hopefully only time I'll ever solder directly onto on a circuit board. It's a little bit fiddly, but as you can see, there's a connection there, and then I've taken off the original blue wire on the output there and soldered directly to that. So that's pretty much it. So really the next thing to do is just to get it onto the track really, and kind of see what happens. Hopefully it'll work okay and it'll do what it's supposed to do, but yeah, there's only one way to find out. Okay, so I've just quickly rigged up my little bit of test track. Got the loco on there, obviously not put the body back on yet because we don't know what's going to happen. We've got power to the track and nothing's gone pop, so that's a positive sign. So we'll just get the old trusty wired multi-mouse and we'll select the 0891. There we go, and let's see what happens. Okay, well, it works. And nothing's gone horribly wrong. Now, one thing I don't know is how long it takes these capacitors to charge up. I'm assuming only a few seconds. So I guess the next thing to do will be to just get it moving and then remove it from the track and see what happens. So we'll give it a bit of power. We'll go the other way. And unbelievably, it appears to work. So there we go, we've got power. Take it off the track. Okay, it didn't work that time. Maybe it needs a bit more time to recharge the capacitor. So I'm not too clued up on these things. I don't know if it needs to have sort of power going to it and to be running to charge the capacitor, or whether it would do it just simply from the power from the track. But we'll run it backwards and forwards a little bit. And then what we'll do is we'll give it some power and we'll take it off the track again. And there we go. We got probably not a huge amount, but a good. Oh, that's with no power going to it. So I guess that's when you put it back on the track. I guess the capacitor is recharging and dissipating again and giving it making it run. But yeah, I'm really impressed with that. That was relatively easy to do. As I say, soldering to the circuit board was pretty tricky, but as long as you're careful, and you're sort of reasonably competent with the soldering iron, it's not too bad. But everything seems to be working fine. So if I take it off the track now and then give it power, okay, that hasn't worked. Okay, yeah, so as I say, I'm not sure how long the capacitor will take to fully charge in sort of normal running, but obviously with a little test like that, it was only running for a few seconds, but it definitely seemed to give it a good 2 or 3 seconds sort of running when I took it off the track. So I think what I'll do now, I'm quite happy with that. It definitely seems to be working okay. Is sort of tidy everything up, just make sure there's no sort of exposed wires or anything that's in danger of shorting out, and then we'll get it back together and we'll put it onto the main layout and see how it runs. Okay, so that's the loco partially put back together. My comment about never soldering directly onto a PCB came back to haunt me as I was trying to get the body back on it. Pulled the wire off of the negative leg of the bridge rectifier, so I had to resolder that, but again, it was a little bit fiddly, but not a massive problem. One thing I didn't mention previously, which I had read about a couple of times, was a lot of people wire a resistor into the circuit, which I believe is to help with the inrush current when the capacitor charges. It can sort of trip out your DCC controller. I didn't have that issue with mine. I don't know if it's maybe if you've got sort of 2 or 3 or more locos with stay alive on your layout, if they all sort of charge at the same time, maybe the sort of inrush current from that can trip them out. But something to sort of be aware of if you do try and do this yourself. But as I say, it's not been an issue so far in the testing I've done with this one. And then just one last thing I'll do before I finish putting the body back together. As you can probably see there, I've given the interior a little coat of paint and sort of put a few, painted a few details onto some of the dials and things, just to make it look a little bit more realistic inside, because it's just painted sort of maroon to match the body from standard, which isn't very exciting. And I know I'll probably add a driver in there at some point as well, but I'll do that in the future. So I'll just put the cab back together, and then I'll put together a few running shots. So that's the loco all put back together and ready to go back into service on the layout. I hope this video has been of been some use to someone. If you want to have a go at this yourself, as I say, do so at your own risk, and make sure you kind of read up on it and make sure you understand what you're doing before you take it on, because you can sort of damage your decoder or the stay alive, or potentially the locomotive itself if you do something wrong. But it's a worthwhile addition, definitely, for a little loco like this. Even on the cleanest track, they can stall every now and then. So I think it will definitely help with that. But if you've got any sort of questions or anything to do with the install, do leave them below. I'll be quite happy to answer any questions. But otherwise, thanks again for watching. I'll hopefully have another video soon, whether that's a layout update or maybe some new stock or new locomotive, hopefully on the horizon. But yeah, I'll try and add some videos a bit more frequently than I have been. But I'll leave you with a few running shots of the 08, and yeah, I'll hopefully put a new video out soon. Thank you. Bye bye.